Hey, you guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven, accompanied by Queen Taylor, and today we're going to be looking at why British numbers confuse Americans by Numberphile. That's it. We just have British numbers confuse Americans, and it does. So I would like to figure that out, and hopefully this video will do that for us. Very interesting. Let's hop on over the video and let's get started.
I am from upstate New York.
I'm from downstate New York.
I live now in Brighton, England.
And I live in London now.
So how long have you been in the UK?
13 years.
So I've been living here for 10 years, and I've spent a lot of that time working as a physics teacher in secondary schools.
So if you're giving somebody your phone number, your credit card number, and you've got two numbers in a row that are the same, so my number is 8844 in my office. The British way to say that would be 8844. And it would have never occurred to me to say it that way.
I don't know.
8844?
8844? That makes sense. I mean, it's easy. It's not confusing.
It's not easier to say.
It's not shorter.
It's not shorter for sure. 88 and 44, please. 8844. 8844.
88. Yeah.
8844. And it would have never occurred to me to say it.
But think of like James Bond. It's 007.
I never would have correlated that to being a thing.
That way.
I don't know about Americans in general, but I can say that for me, when I moved to London, I was really thrown by the double numbers thing for quite a while.
I would say 8844. I might say 8844, but I wouldn't say 8844.
When I moved here, there were two problems. Right? One is the double numbers thing. And the second thing is that people say the telephone numbers in a different pattern than they do US numbers. So it was that different pattern plus people saying things like 5599. I had such a hard time getting those numbers the first time. And maybe I'm just particularly slow.
But the thing that always trips me up is I don't know whether to say triple when I get three of those things in a row. So if I had a credit card that had 3 zeros in a row, do I say 000? Do I say 000? Do I say 000? Do I say 000? I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from British people and
let us know in the
instruction
comments
how to read my credit card number.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of having ever heard triple, but I wouldn't rule it out. I don't actually know. Perhaps your commenters can let us know if they say triple.
Another example is what happens when you use numbers in the thousands or numbers with.
Is this a reaction inside of a reaction inside of a reaction right now? Like, are we reacting to a video of a guy reacting to this woman?
I didn't think that's what it was. I thought it was people interviewing multiple people.
Interesting.
And like they're just asking the same questions. Like maybe they asked her first, then they're just asking the other guy the same thing. But I don't know, maybe.
Because this guy's, this is their thing. And he's, commenting on his experience. But then he made a comment in here like, let us know what your channel.
Yeah, so maybe
like,
I took it as like he's answering the question to the people who's asking the question. So say the people who's asking the question is the ones with the channel. And then he's answering the question saying, oh yeah, this is my answer. I don't know. Maybe your channel members can let me know type thing. But maybe he's a reactor reacting to hers. I don't know.
Double reaction.
I wouldn't rule it out. I don't actually know. Perhaps your commenters can let us know if they say triple.
Another example is what happens when you use numbers in the thousands or numbers with 4 digits. The president's address. That's called 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in American. And I think most British people would be comfortable with that being 1600. But when you get to a bigger number, Americans are happy to say that is 5300. A British person would probably call this 5300. Yeah.
Where I grew up on downstate New York, pretty much everybody around me would say 5300. Like, for example, I know that my parents will say 5300. But for me as a kid, I always found that a confusing way to phrase that. There's something about it that just doesn't gel in my mind. And honestly, it took me years and years to really get that. And so in my mind, when I hear someone say something like 7200, I have to kind of think about it in terms of $100 bills, right? So again, if someone says like 5,300, I have to visualize $5,300 bills on a table. For me, I always consciously made an effort to say 5,300 instead of 5,300.
Which do you think is more elegant, 5,300 or 5,300?
Well, 5,300 is easier to understand. I mean, when I say
Right.
5,300, I get confused myself whether I mean 5,300 or 50.
Absolutely not. I don't think I get confused at all when we use the 5,300.
I don't either. I say it both ways, but 5,300 is just quicker. It's to the point. So it kind of depends on where and when you're saying it and why. But 5,300 doesn't confuse me either.
So whenever you do that kind of phrasing, you kind of immediately know we're in the thousands at this point.
Yeah.
So when you say 5,300, it's that 100 afterwards that you're like, oh, it's 1,000. We're talking in bigger numbers now.
Yeah. My brain is just like 100 means there's 2 zeros after it.
Yeah.
53 is in place of like 100. So it doesn't.
I think when you start getting into even larger numbers like 100,000, that's when you start going into the 100,000, 5,053, right? It's
Yeah.
That was a bad example, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like when we get into larger numbers.
I mean, when I say 5,300, I get confused myself whether I mean 5,300 or 53,000.
Even though I think that 5,300 is linguistically nicer, right? It sort of rolls off the tongue more easily. But I like the precision in saying 5,300. But I was definitely going against the tide of people that I lived around.
Nevertheless, I find it easy to say 50. When I'm thinking of numbers, when I want to say how much something cost.
You deal with $100 bills in America. Like, it's not rare to come across $100 bills, whereas I don't think there are, now I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think that there are 100-pound notes that are actually produced. I think it stops at 50. And I have only incredibly rarely in my life ever seen someone actually use a 50-pound note. And it's always remarkable. Like at a bank, I'll see someone pull out a 50. So maybe that's why, as an American, it's easier to think in terms of amounts of $100 bills, right? I have 12 $100 bills, so that's 1,200. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that might be why British people are not as comfortable with that kind of phrasing.
The second year.
But so if your pound notes stop at 50, when you're making a large purchase of something, like let's say a $200 TV or a $300 TV, what are you using? Just 20? Is there $25? Is it $20?
It's probably 20. I mean, and there could be 25. I guess it doesn't mean it's the same as ours, but we don't have $25, so I would just assume that.
And also,
I think I've seen some of their money before. I've never seen £100. I don't know that I've even seen 50, but I've definitely seen some of the smaller ones.
And would you say, because I've seen other countries, I guess we've seen Jamaica just recently, and they go into the millions, and that blows my mind.
Yeah.
They're like, here's a note for like 50 million. I don't know what their currency is, but it's like, what the shit?
It's pretty crazy.
And
thinking to do that math.
yeah. And then like the tenor or the piece of parchment that it's on, it's an awkward shape. It can't like easily fit into a back pocket wallet, and I feel like American dollars and American currency is just built in a way, or at least our wallets are like particularly
I would say it
sized.
could be the wallets made that way.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you feel like the euro and stuff that you were using abroad, did you ever notice like, how am I going to put this in my purse
No.
or wallet?
I didn't. I feel like if anything, I don't remember them being distinctly different. If anything, they might have been just a little shorter, like not as wide.
Okay.
But
that's a benefit, actually.
I also had a lot of, they were more like coins.
So you walked around with a bag of coins. I mean, we have coins too. It's just not really prevalent.
But I
anymore.
think like £5, I think they're coins.
Oh, no kidding.
I might be wrong. It's been long enough ago. I have a bag. I could literally go look, but
Very interesting.
5 might be
2000s was
paper. I could be off on that.
With it, but that might be why British people are not as comfortable with that kind of phrasing.
the second year of the 2000s was 2001. for in American speech generally. But in British speech, that sounds weird. That sounds American. You'd say 2001. So 2001, 2001.
This is one of those cases where, having lived in London for 10 years, and in particular having taught in front of classes and being very used to speaking to British people all the time, I can sometimes kind of forget these little phrases and which way have I always said it, and just naturally thinking about it, the 2001 or 2001, which way would I have said it when I was in New York? I'm not 100% sure. I think I would have said 2001, but it's one of those things that gets kind of lost when you move from one country to another. Sometimes those little things can just kind of, you just become uncertain about how it was. And then you feel like a crazy person, right? You feel like I should know how I used to say things, but you just lose it. But I did look up, after you mentioned the 2001, I wanted to see how Arthur C. Clarke actually says that number.
Of course, 2001.
He's British, and he says in interviews, he says 2001. As the title for his book is the way he always phrased it. I tried to find some audio of Stanley Kubrick saying the title of the movie, but he's an incredibly secretive kind of guy and didn't do very many interviews about it. And so I was unable to find any clip of Stanley Kubrick actually speaking aloud the name of perhaps.
Sorry.
What?
I happened to look at this creature over here.
This creature.
Just watch the eyes for a second. Okay, while I have it paused, I was going to ask you how you say it.
2001.
2000 and? You say
Yeah,
and?
I do the end.
I alternate between the two as well.
I think it depends on what.
2001. Like, what year did you graduate? 2007.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
2007.
it's like, I'd be like 2007. It's like certain situational as well.
So I think if you were to ask me the date and have the year, like the month, day, year format, I would probably just say, August 10th, 2001.
Yeah.
But if it was just talking about the specific year, I'd probably say 2001.
Like 2003.
Yeah.
But I feel like after it gets to a certain point, like, which also 2025, we would never say 2025.
Yeah.
2025. Neither way. It's just always 2025. That's weird. But just watch his eyes, because it's just very aggressive and funny. So just watch from here.
To find any clip of Stanley Kubrick actually speak.
Okay, hold on. Let me back it up a little bit more, because it's a very slow and then aggressive.
And so I was unable to find any clip of Stanley Kubrick actually speaking aloud the name of perhaps his most famous movie.
If you want to count out seconds, which people sometimes need to do, a typical way of doing this is to have a word that you put in between your numbers to make it long enough that you've got a full second between the two numbers. And the typical way to do this in American English, or a typical way to do it, is to use the word Mississippi. So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi.
4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi.
Hopefully it's about a second. I've never actually tested it.
I have no idea where it comes from, except that it's a fun word to say and it's long. So that seems like an obvious choice to go in the middle.
Another way to do it is 1 1000, 2 1000, which you'll notice has a different number of syllables. The 1 1000, 2 1000, I think is found in both America and Britain. But then in Britain, you've got other ones like 1 Piccadilly, 2 Piccadilly, 3 Piccadilly, or 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant.
That's weird.
I was trying to think about this, and I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to hear any of my students count in this kind of way that you would do, where you're intentionally doing seconds. So I don't know what any of them would have said, but you asking me about this is basically the first time I've ever heard about Piccadilly or elephant.
When I said 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, that's how I learned it, with that very specific sing-song kind of rhythm to help you count out the seconds. And because I've only done this on the blog, I've not actually heard people say 1 Piccadilly, 2 Piccadilly. I'm not quite sure how they're singing it.
Piccadilly, I think, is okay. It has that same kind of rhythm as Mississippi, right? So 1 Mississippi, 2 Piccadilly, 3 elephant. Like elephant does not work. I don't think that works at all. I mean, 1 elephant, 2 elephant. It's so clunky. It's no good at all. I have to veto that one. But Piccadilly Piccadilly seems incredibly similar to Mississippi, so I'm perfectly happy with that as a difference.
But it's also the kind of thing that I've found people have family versions of that aren't used anywhere outside their extended family. So there's room for lots of variation.
We want to hear what word you put in between numbers when you count to make sure there's a second spacing. So put comments under the video. Mississippi, elephant, Piccadilly, 1,000, something different. We want to know.
Yeah,
People
I also
often
wanna know.
ask me
Yeah, that's a good question.
or express astonishment when they get American addresses that they need to send something to, and the address might be 4 or 5 digit long, the number before the street. So, to live at 2,787 Main Street or something like that. Whereas, the last place I lived here was number 7, and my mother always found that strange. She often wrote it as 70. She just couldn't imagine that I really lived at a place that was only number 7 in the great scheme of things.
It's funny because I never really tuned into the low house numbers thing. I mean, now that you have mentioned it, it seems incredibly obvious. And yes, I can think of a bunch of addresses in my life here that were low numbers. And it's definitely the case, well, at least it's the case in New York growing up, that I don't think there was ever a house number that was less than 100. So I knew people who lived in 100 or 107 or 109 houses. But I don't think there was ever a single address that was below that number.
Where I'm from,
It's actually interesting that he says that, because I believe, and I could be completely off base here, but when they zone a particular area for residential living and they map out the plots that they will give to houses, so like this is plot of land is designated for a house, I think that's where the houses numbering, the number of the houses come from. It's based off of what number we're at in like the housing development, and then they just put in basically your plot number.
Yeah.
It's associated with the plot number in a county, like a title deed residential plot number. So I don't know if like you go far enough back, if there is anything.
Yeah. I think I can only think of one address I've ever lived in that had less than 4 numbers. It was 2.
Yeah.
But everything that, like any address I can recall had 4 numbers.
And I have lived in an apartment but that's the thing. Apartment numbers are different than house numbers because you'll have like the main apartment complex and then your apartment 32 or your apartment 1. But yeah, it's interesting. I've seen some, because you guys have sent us over some packages and parcels, and I've seen some addresses, and it is strange, to say the least. It is very strange.
you never have a single digit. You rarely have a two-digit street address. So my family is on the first block of Miller Street, and the first number is 100. Well, it's about the grid road system in America. In England, you don't talk about blocks the same way you do in America, because the roads are all higgledy-piggledy and don't necessarily make nice squares. But since American ones typically do make nice squares, what you want in this system is to have the numbers all match within each block. You talk about the 100 block of Miller Street. Once you cross the road that intersects with Miller Street and go on to the next block, it'll be the 200 block. So
interestingly enough, on the radio in Colorado, they used to always talk about in blocks.
Mm-hmm,
so you'd always hear like the 1700 block of some road.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they spoke like that in terms of like police activity or something going on.
That's what I was going to say.
1800th block. So like you knew exactly, like, because she is right about the grids and, you know, how everything's set up this way. But they also could be very massive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking 1800 block of a certain street on like Miller Street, you know? So yeah, makes sense.
My block of my street where I grew up goes up to 131, and then it starts over at 200 once you cross the road.
So your numbers get higher quicker.
Yeah.
It is almost unbelievable to me that the numbers on one side of the street don't have anything to do with the numbers on the other side of the street. And I still come across this, and it's just appalling, right? That you're walking across the street,
appalling.
and the numbers on one side are going, 3, 5, 7, 9, and you look across the other side of the street, and the numbers will be 50, 48, 46, right? They're
That's
even,
weird.
they're not aligned, and they're going in the opposite direction. And it's just maddening. I don't understand how this came to be, why anybody has let it stand for as long as it has. It is just baffling to me. And the first few times that I ran across this, that I didn't realize, like, you have to check the numbers on the other side of the street, I got severely lost in London a couple of times trying to find places because I'm walking down very long streets in the completely opposite direction, thinking, I'll just cross the street when I need those even numbers, right? And then you get to wherever you're supposed to be, you cross the street, and you're hundreds off from wherever you were actually trying to get, but you're still on the same street. It's, like I said, it's just unbelievable to me. It's like I refuse to believe that humans ever decided to do this, right, on purpose. This isn't exactly number related, but I can tell you the thing that I did notice that I find is just charming is the habit of naming buildings houses, right? So even like a giant office building will sometimes have the name, and it'll be like 70 Darwin House. But this house suffix or this house label for like big corporate buildings or just council flats, I find is kind of remarkable and very charming in and of itself. And that strikes me as being very British, right? Where someone could say, I live at 50 Feynman House, but 50 Feynman House is a gigantic tower block, right? It's not like a little cottage like it sounds. So I do quite like that. I love to explore the city and just kind of wander around, and there's always a ton of construction going on. And in particular, in the past few years and right now, there's a bunch of big luxury buildings going up or that have been recently constructed. And I can't help but notice that all of them want to be number one at whatever they are, right? So, for example, there's one London Bridge, and there's one Blackfriars, there's one Tower Bridge, right? And these are luxury buildings. And they always write it like really big on the sign, right? It'll say one Blackfriars. And the other thing that I can't help but notice is they always like to write out the one, right? It's O-N-E. It's never the number one. I find that interesting. I assume that somewhere some architecture firm decided that this is a kind of luxury statement. I'd be curious to know if this happens elsewhere in the world because, as we discussed, I don't think that it can happen in New York because the buildings can't start at 1, right? They have to start at 100. But I've noticed that some of these buildings that label themselves as 1 whatever, they're in like suspicious spots where I look around and I think, I'm not sure that
If
you
you're
can
one.
really claim that you are one Tower Bridge, right? There are numerous buildings here, any of which looks like they could be number 1 Tower Bridge. So
Yeah, where
I
we
have my
based
doubts
this
about
off
the
of.
accuracy of this number system. Although, with the street numbers, who knows, right? The numbers don't have anything to do with anything, so they could just be all over the place.
And so I have a follow-up question to that is if like domain names, right? Like on the internet, someone can have a domain name to a website and it could be 1. Like we own Killermcknight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say someone wanted Killermcknight as their name. If someone else owns 1 as the street number, can they buy it out or can they change it legally in a map system? Like, can they rename a building that already has the 1 Bridgeway? Because to his point, I don't think they're the first. So how could they say they're 1 when 1 could really be like a couple, houses down?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Let's finish this video out, you guys. 10 more seconds. That's it, actually. Just kidding.
So a man walks into a bar. He asks for 10 times more drinks than everyone else. The barman says, "Now that is an order of magnitude."
It's silly. That is an order of magnitude. All right, baby. What did you think of Numberphile? And what did you think of this video?
It was actually more interesting than I thought it was going to be, to be honest with you. At first I was like, we're doing a video on numbers.
I know.
It's going to be very mathy, and I don't know. I wasn't expecting this. It was intriguing to see. I think they're mostly just very small, slight differences.
Yeah.
I think that if they were to hear us say something or we were to hear them say something, we would each other know what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see the differences there.
So do you think British numbers confuse Americans is a little clickbaity, or do you think it's accurate?
Yeah, I think it's a little clickbaity. I mean, maybe, yeah, because I don't think that's really confusing, anything that we really saw. Yeah. I think the housing situation where address is being completely different could be confusing. Because here, if we're looking for an address, you know that the odds are on one side, the evens are on the number, and they're just going in chronological order.
So you just look for the
numerical
house.
Order.
Yeah.
So you just look for the house. You know, it's like, that would be confusing, especially if you're in a new place, you don't know where anything's at, you're going to get lost. But the rest of it, yeah, I didn't think it was really necessarily confusing.
I really enjoyed the presentation of this, though.
I did too.
I thought there was, you know, his interjection and talking about his lived experience kind of, but in like a humorous way.
Yeah.
Was really nice. I love the animations. The animation, this is a good stitch. Like, this is a good niche for them.
Yeah, I agree.
The woman, you know, having credentials, being able to speak about this with her own lived experience, but also, you know, being a teacher. It was great. I thought it was very interesting because there's things I wouldn't have never even have thought of, like the Mississippi thing.
Yeah. I do want to know what words other people use.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think elephant works.
I think I've always heard 1/1000 or the Mississippi thing. Yeah. And it, like she was talking about, there is a rhythm to it and a cadence that you say it. You know, like one, like there, and that's just, I think, in order to stretch out the second.
Yeah.
You know, but I digress. Guys, let us know down in the comments what you thought of this video. Did you like it? Leave down in the comments all the questions that we have, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Leave down in the comments all the questions we have.
All the questions we had, yeah. Answers to all the questions that we had.
That's funny.
That is pretty good.